Kamala Harris and the world, America's new global test. On January 20th, 2025, Kamala Harris took the oath of office, not just as America's first woman president, but as the leader of a nation whose global standing has never felt more uncertain. From the trenches of Ukraine to the contested waters of the South China Sea, the world is ablaze with crises that demand more than speeches. They demand choices. And those choices will define whether America leads, follows, or fades. The question isn't whether Harris is ready for the world. It's whether the world is ready for her. But to understand where she's headed, we first have to look at where she's coming from. Kamala Harris didn't enter the Oval Office with a blank slate. She inherited a foreign policy portfolio shaped, and in some cases scarred, by her predecessor. Joe Biden spent 4 years trying to restore America's credibility after the chaos of the Trump era. He rallied NATO. He pulled troops out of Afghanistan. He stood firm on Ukraine. But those decisions came with costs. The Afghan withdrawal became a symbol of miscalculation. NATO expanded, yes, but so did Russian aggression. Alliances were rebuilt, but trust remained fragile. Harris now stands at the intersection of Biden's legacy and her own ambition. She must decide, does she defend what was done, or does she redefine what comes next? And redefine she has begun to do. Early signals from the Harris administration suggest a sharp pivot, not away from Biden's values, but toward a more assertive, more proactive vision of American power. She's called it stability through strength and partnership. And it's already reshaping how Washington engages with the world. Climate diplomacy is no longer a side note. It's central to her foreign policy strategy. Defense technology is being modernized at a pace unseen in decades. Cyber warfare, space dominance, AI-driven intelligence. These aren't just buzzwords. They're pillars of her national security doctrine. Harris isn't simply managing crises. She's trying to anticipate them, to position America not as a reactive superpower, but as a strategic architect of the 21st century order. It's ambitious, it's bold, and it's deeply uncertain whether it will work. Because here's the reality. Foreign policy isn't made in a vacuum, and Harris is governing a country that's exhausted, divided, and deeply skeptical of foreign entanglements. The American public is weary of endless wars. Congress is gridlocked. Economic pressures are mounting, inflation, debt, and a middle class that feels left behind. In this environment, every decision Harris makes abroad is scrutinized through a domestic lens. Can she justify spending billions on Ukraine when infrastructure crumbles at home? Can she rally support for a robust China policy when voters are worried about jobs? The tension between global leadership and domestic priorities isn't new. But under Harris, it's reached a breaking point. She must prove that America's role in the world isn't just morally necessary, but practically beneficial. And that's a harder sell than ever before. Yet if Harris is to succeed, she knows she can't do it alone. Her foreign policy isn't built on grand speeches or unilateral power plays. It's built on partnerships, and those partnerships are being tested in real time across every major region. In the Middle East, she's working to rebuild trust after years of inconsistent policy. She's deepened defense ties with India and Japan, recognizing that the Indo-Pacific is the new center of global competition. She's approached Iran with caution, keeping diplomatic channels open while maintaining pressure. And on China, she's walked a tightrope, tough on trade and security, but careful not to trigger a full-blown confrontation. Regional diplomacy is where credibility is earned or lost. Harris understands that alliances aren't just about treaties. They're about predictability, reliability, and shared interests. And so far, she's betting that America can still be the partner the world turns to if it acts with both strength and humility. But the world isn't waiting for America to find its footing. On the global stage, power is shifting. China is watching closely, calculating whether Harris represents continuity or vulnerability. Russia, emboldened by years of Western division, is testing the limits of American resolve. And Europe, still dependent on U.S. leadership, is asking itself whether Washington can still be counted on in the long run. Harris's policies are being measured not just by what she says, but by how others respond. Can she stabilize the post-Biden world order, or will her presidency mark the beginning of a deeper global realignment? The answer depends on whether she can convince Beijing, Moscow, and Brussels that America is back, not just in rhetoric, but in action. And that means showing strength where it matters most, in strategy, in technology, and in military resolve. Which brings us to the Pentagon, because under Harris, America's defense strategy is undergoing a quiet revolution. Advanced deterrence, cyber warfare, and tighter NATO coordination are no longer aspirations. They're operational realities. The U.S. military is modernizing at a pace designed to outmatch not just today's threats, but tomorrow's. Hypersonic weapons, autonomous systems, space-based defense networks. These are the tools of the new era. Harris has made it clear America will not be outgunned, outmaneuvered, or out-innovated. Her administration is betting that the future of warfare isn't just about troops on the ground. It's about dominance in domains most people can't even see. And that shift is reshaping how allies and adversaries alike view American power. Of course, power without perception is incomplete, and the world is reacting. In Europe, there's cautious optimism, a sense that Harris might offer the steady leadership Biden promised but couldn't always deliver. In Moscow, there's skepticism, a belief that Washington remains fundamentally hostile no matter who's in charge. And in Beijing, there's silence, the kind of silence that suggests careful calculation. Stakeholders across the globe are watching, waiting, and recalibrating. Diplomats are adjusting their strategies. Intelligence agencies are reassessing their forecasts. And world leaders are asking themselves the same question. Is Kamala Harris a manager of decline or an architect of renewal? The truth is, we don't yet know. But what we do know is this. Kamala Harris has inherited a world in turmoil and a nation unsure of its place within it. She's chosen not to retreat, but to re-engage, not with the old playbook, but with a new vision of what American leadership can be. Whether she can redefine U.S. influence in a divided, multipolar world remains to be seen. But if there's one thing history teaches us, it's that leadership isn't about avoiding challenges, it's about rising to meet them. And in that sense, Kamala Harris's presidency isn't just a test of her policies, it's a test of whether America, after years of doubt and division, can still rebuild its influence, not through rhetoric alone, but through resilience, through strategy, and through the strength of its convictions. The world is watching, and so is history.